It's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable, to put, challenge yourself. I'm going to challenge myself to give you feedback, formative feedback. And again, there's nothing wrong in using students to give students feedback.
Welcome to PodClass. PodClass is sponsored by the Caribbean Teaching Scholar Journal and aims to demystify topics and themes within the scholarship of teaching and learning. PodClass is produced by the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning within the Settle Inc.'s Teaching Innovation Studio. We're excited to have you with us, and we hope you enjoy today's episode. Hello, and welcome to PodClass. It's a new year, it's a new semester, and we continue to explore the teaching strategies and methods, mechanisms, best practices that we can use to enhance teaching and learning, of course, with the aim of enhancing the student experience. That's our main goal as always. Today we are joined by Dr. Leroy Hill, Director of the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, and he's going to chat a bit with us as we review some of the highlights and the learning points from the course experience review that were obtained, feedback that was obtained in semester one. Dr. Hill, thank you for joining us this morning.
And thank you for having me. I know this is very a busy session for you.
Yes,
and I want to commend you on the snapshots. I don't know if anybody hasn't seen the snapshot. You should really. It's like 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Less than 2
minutes.
Yeah.
And so I think that snapshot is really insightful. Mm-hmm. It's really insightful on what we can do to really enrich the student experience. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And given that we're focusing on the student experience, one thing that we don't want to ever miss the point as educators is that feedback is a powerful tool for our own personal growth and, of course, for the students' development if we use the feedback properly. So very quickly, I just want to mention some of the things that students mentioned last semester. And some of the highlights, the things that they really appreciated, were actually the effective use of technology. And we praise you all for, as we would say, trying and implementing something new, something innovative in your courses. They also mentioned that they appreciated the learning activities because they found that they promoted critical thinking.
Wow.
And we know that that is one of the attributes of the ideal
UB candidate.
So the ideal graduate. And we are very happy that we have had a hand in helping you as the students feel satisfied with their learning experience. Now, what we want to make sure that we don't miss are the learning points, things that we can take away from the student feedback. So there were 3 key areas that students discussed. And I've kind of realized that some of these have been repeating for the last academic years.
Can I guess one? I think one of them is the time it takes.
Yep. Timing.
Yeah. That's a recurring challenge. And we know that faculty, the many classes, the many things that we have to do. But in reality, the sort of assessments that are used also give rise to faculty not being able to take the time or give feedback that is, I don't want to use the word immediate, but in terms of students being able to use the information or the response or the feedback to improve, they can't do that after the semester is done or 2-3 weeks beyond. I think one of the key things that we try and engage or encourage faculty is to use the course outline template. And why we say that is because in there you often would indicate commitment to a feedback response process. And if you tell your students that, okay, I'll give you feedback within 2 weeks, then that in a way motivates you to stick to it. I think I personally have a struggle with that. But because I have it in my course outline, I've said, okay, because I want to be student-centered, I'm being client, especially now since we are talking about charter customer service. It's good to say, okay, what am I committed to as a faculty? These are the things I'm committed to. And it's okay to be vulnerable, to put, challenge yourself. I'm going to challenge myself to give you feedback, formative feedback. And again, there's nothing wrong in using students to give students feedback.
Nope.
And I think that's one of the challenges, especially if you have huge classes.
Yes.
You can use the strategies. So it's not just about, I think students learn from each other so they can give each other feedback. So finding a way to encourage peer feedback. And I know Mr. Mohammed is having a workshop on the workshop, not intended, workshop on the workshop, because the workshop module in Moodle is actually a peer feedback plugin that we use in My Learning.
Yes. And of course, just to be clear, Mr. Mohammed is our e-learning support specialist. So you can also, we also encourage you, of course, to subscribe, like our videos, stay tuned to our channel, because a lot of our workshop content is actually edited into video content, sometimes shorts, sometimes quick how-to videos, 1 minute videos that are very useful.
Yeah.
Very, very useful. And
before you go on to the next area, I want to mention, or maybe expand something I mentioned. I mentioned earlier the type of assessment. And what I meant by that is, I know we are keen in having our midterms and our more summative assessments. I think one of the powerful means of assessment that we can really embrace is the whole idea of formative assessment. As you going along, you're giving students that feedback, and you can use technology to actually engage them in that standpoint.
I was not going to ask about that. Yeah.
In terms of using technology, I know some faculty are using feedback fruits. I know some faculty are using Mentimeter. Especially since we're not deconstructing teaching as just being only asynchronous, but also synchronous. So there are different tools in which you can actually use to engage, and students can get feedback in a very meaningful way.
So I appreciate some of the points that stood out in this topic of the timing of feedback on assessments, timing of grading. Feedback is crucial to keeping students engaged.
Yes, it is.
So you write an assessment, you don't have feedback on it. The theory is showing that there's a reduction in actual engagement in the learning experience throughout. So we're saying that we need to be clear communicators.
Yeah.
So set the deadlines, be as clear as possible in our course outlines or whatever content we have on the LMS to indicate when these things would be done. Utilize technology.
Yeah.
And of course, incorporate peer review. Now,
And even before you indicate the peer review, students can reflect on their own work. And it may sound crazy, but that's sort of kind of feedback. You can have instruments like checklists. You can embed checklists within an assignment to really have the students reflect. Have I really completed this? Have I really done this in this way? So even though you have the instructions, you can have a checklist. And that in a way can be a feedback mechanism to students, to themselves.
Yeah.
So they're reflecting on, building their metacognitive abilities.
I like that.
And we know, in addition to the rubric, that having a checklist at the end or in your assignment can be a very meaningful way of students engaging with the material.
Yeah.
There are three things students engage with in a course. They engage with their peers, they engage with faculty, but they also engage with the content. And I think that's a major aspect that we miss out on in how do we get students to engage with the content, especially if it's a blended or online. Well, it's kind of blurred now in our setting because so many things are happening in My Learning, and we do know that we have a template in My Learning that is not used because we spent a lot of time based on the midterm review addressing some of those gaps and things that we saw, and the students were really happy because we got the data from them that yes, they were really happy there's more consistent use in the template. But not many persons are using. So we will be reinforcing that.
And that actually segues us into the second learning point from last semester's feadback. So students actually said that they would appreciate more organization of the content on the LMS.
Yeah.
Like easier layouts, easier flows, and of course having all the information there as clear as possible.
Yeah.
What's a quick, short stopgap measure? I
think a quick stopgap measure is use what you have. We've made it a simpler and easier process by having the templates, and we know that the templates are there. They're guide. They're not. You can use it. You can delete it. But the thing is, if you use the template, and it's a very simple process of access and. If I remember clearly, it's two major things in there. You either access and you engage. And so if faculty use that basic framework, then the information is organized. I want to go back to, I know this may not necessarily be a online or a blended course, but the whole idea of structure is a basic premise of learning in educational psychology. The students are busy; they're doing many other courses, and the more abstract you make the learning environment for them, the more difficult you making it for them. So that is why we it's really a research informed approach that we have taken in recommending the My Learning templates. And so we really want persons to use them. If you don't know how to use them, we've included some guidelines. We will be reinforcing. Perhaps we can include the link in the show notes
there's
of today's session.
Our channel again, our YouTube channel again.
Yes,
so don't forget to check it out. We have an entire how-to playlist.
Yes, we do.
Guides for use of activities and other things in My Learning, other tools. So we're talking about layout, being consistent with the layout. We want to have it appealing, not chaotic. At the end of the day, having some structure in the LMS could be a make or break.
But you know something, Mark? Appealing is something that is different. You know, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some faculty have no idea what appealing is. So I would recommend get a peer to look, give you a second view, and if you're in doubt, reach out to one of our at Settle. We do send us an email. We're always just a click away. I think if you really want to know if your course environment, your course space is an inviting and impactful one, we will give you the honest feedback. We'll give you honest feedback.
Yeah, honest feedback once again. So it brings us we want to be timely with assessments. We want to have clear layout, organization of course content on the LMS. The last thing the students are saying is that the workloads are just too heavy.
This is nothing new.
We don't want to fall into the emotional trap of saying, well, the students must say that. What mechanisms could we implement in an unbiased way to improve the student experience?
I think one of the things we need to do at the more systemic level is our planning and organization. And I think if we work in collaboration, if you have a program and we have two major assignments being due at the same time in the same program, it's really an evidence of lack of coordination. I think we need to have that greater collaboration amongst the faculty to ensure that students are not burdened submitting assignments at the same time. I also think the idea of understanding the contact hours and really explaining that to the students, also explaining to them notional hours, because they need to understand to be early and to be clear about those things. And what I mean to be early is that you will unpack these things in your course outline. All these things should be unpacked in your course outline. What are the expectations from the students? Because I think, as you rightly said, some of the students, they have a misconception of what it means to really do a project and how many hours they need to spend in doing that project. This is where we spend a lot of time doing the calculating notional hours. And one of the things that we want to do going forward, and it's a project in the making, is the workload calculator, because we do know that it's not only this university. A lot of universities have this challenge, and they've been able to really provide a way for faculty to, when they're designing their courses, to take these other things into consideration. When you're doing an essay, how many hours they should be doing. When you're doing a project, how many hours they should do, and count that as part and make it front-facing so the students know. The students know that they're expected to do that, therefore they will not really wait the last minute. And we know a lot of students wait the last minute, and they again, encouraging your students to be timely, and that's part of the learning experience. I do know that there are some persons who think that giving students an assignment 2 weeks before, sometimes it's not in the course outline, and you're giving them the assignment 2 weeks before, can be, it's 2 weeks, yes, but it can be still challenging because we don't know what else they're doing. So I do think having, for me as a learner, having the breadth and the magnitude of what is expected of me day one is really helpful. And I think it augurs well in helping the students plan their lives around that. Even if it's demanding, they know they can, salami slice their time. That often what I
Yes,
use.
yes.
Their time in a clear way to make it sure that they're early on and
Yeah.
preparing themselves to be successful.
And I think a part of that too, apart from going early in the game, is that we need to check in ever so often.
Yeah.
Nothing is wrong with simply checking in. And we want to make use of those office hours. Use those to engage the students, not just to see what's their comprehension and understanding of the content, but how they are doing. Mental well-being, just general well-being is a major part. All of that is in the learning experience.
And you could integrate a feedback loop.
Exactly.
A feedback loop, a thermometer, how are you doing? And you could have that integrated as a clear way of checking progress in the class and understanding in the class. There's so many strategies. Modest point. I've used that a lot. What's your modest point? You put that somewhere and they ask, and you can say, okay, fine, I know persons having challenge understanding this aspect of the project. I can provide more meaningful tutorials.
Correct.
So the tutorial is not just a talking shop.
Yes.
And it's something
Specific.
that's specific about doing that.
So I think we've covered the 3 areas, main takeaways of the layout of content, better organization is needed, timing of grading and feedback on assessments, and then how could we assist students in maneuvering the workload.
Yeah.
And I think I can safely say that faculty in general remain committed to improving the student experience.
Yeah.
And we here at Settle are definitely committed to that. It is our mandate, and we strive very hard to make sure that we implement that mandate every semester. So responding to feedback is ongoing. If you have received your feedback and you think it may be more negative than positive, again, team up with a peer whom you can trust. Review your feedback. You could reach out to us for probably some intervention or some advice as to what you think you can do differently this semester. It is ongoing, but perfection is not possible. So what we're trying is just to make sure we are one step ahead of last semester all the time. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So Dr. Hill, it was a pleasure having you with us this morning. To all of our viewers, we look forward to another episode to follow. We hope that the insights today were valuable. And of course, look out for videos on our channel that will be coming. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for joining us for today's PodClass, the podcast that explores various themes in the scholarship of teaching and learning in higher education. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can check out the links and resources in the show notes for more information. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on your favorite platform. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.